Welcome to the lesson. Today we will discuss a framework for executing business analytics. Our lesson today will talk about how data becomes business value. Then we deep dive into the framework, understanding a little bit of how data extraction works, understand on a high level what data warehousing means, and finally understanding the various types of data analytics. To understand how data becomes value, maybe it helps to compare it to coffee. If you like coffee very much, you might be buying your own coffee beans. Can coffee beans be ingested? Maybe not on a bad day, but generally you don't want to be eating coffee beans. So you grind the coffee beans into coffee mix. Can the coffee mix be ingested? Maybe if you're not feeling very well, you might be tempted to, but in general, you want to be mixing the mix with milk and water to create a beverage. So in general, this is the process of transforming coffee beans to a beverage. First, you have the raw material, which is coffee beans. The coffee beans are stored, and then they're ground into a finished product called coffee mix. But for it to be ingested, it has to be sold as inventory, and then turned into a beverage. So that's how coffee beans become your favorite coffee drink. Data is similar. You also follow a process of turning it into value. You extract data, you warehouse data, and you perform various types of analytics. So raw data by itself isn't really useful. You need data to be extracted and then turned into insight. And the insight by itself is also not really generating value. The insight has to generate business action. So this process of turning raw data into business action is the framework for business analytics. The first step to turning data into analytics is the extraction phase. To understand this better, let's remember, where does data really come from? Generally, a lot of data comes from at least three sources. Your source systems, if you have any of those in your company, like ERP systems, supply chain systems, accounting systems, the raw transactions coming through your business, and finally, documents and forms that you have on hand. This data has to be ingested into a centralized repository called a data warehouse. In the data warehouse, the data is cleaned, curated, organized, and ready for analysis. But the data warehouse is not the analysis itself. It has also to be extracted into analytics tools where the business analyst performs various types of analytics. This process of moving data from source systems into a data warehouse and from a data warehouse into analytical tools is often called ETL, or extract, transform, and load processes. And this, in a nutshell, is the execution framework for business analytics. Once data is extracted, it has to be warehoused so it can be prepared for analysis. To understand data warehousing, let's remember that every data we will probably analyze comes in the forms of tables. So for example, we might have a table that contains all our sales data coming from our point of sale systems. Or we might have another table containing pricing data that comes from marketing. Or we might have another table containing costs. What have we really spent on marketing, like advertising costs and event costs? Now, to understand the relationships between these data sets, you need to be able to join that data. Otherwise, we won't know how does price affect sales or how does advertising affect price. The data has to be joined in what's known as a denormalized form. And this is what happens in a data warehouse. All of the data extracted from various systems is stored in individual tables, and the data warehouse takes care of joining all of these tables. To the business analyst, they don't see all of these joins. These are all done in the back end. But the idea of doing all of this is it prepares the data for analysis. If the business analyst were to join the data manually, it lengthens the time and oftentimes results in a lot of manual errors. Data warehousing removes all of this manual effort and automatically joins all the needed data at the right place in preparation for the business analyst. Once the data is joined, now the analysis begins. There are three general uses for business analytics. The first is called descriptive analytics. This is data that's used to benchmark or to profile. The second type of analytics is predictive. You are surfacing relationships between two different types of data and making predictions about future data. And the third type of analytics is prescriptive. You're looking at creating recommendations through simulation and optimization models. To understand the three types of analytics better, you might want to look at the Waze app. The Waze app is an example of three different types of analytics. For example, you use the Waze app to find out how is the traffic today. You're not really looking at predicting anything yet or going somewhere. You just want to know if in the next corner there's a lot of cars or there's an open avenue, and that's descriptive. You can also use the Waze app to predict how long your travel time will be. If you input the destination and you input the time of departure, Waze will automatically tell you, based on historical data and the current traffic today, how long your travel will be, and that's predictive. But the most popular use of Waze is prescriptive. Say you want to go from Quezon City to Makati, and you want to know what are the three best routes between Quezon City and Makati. Waze is able to predict and give you prescriptions. Okay, if you want to go from Quezon City to Makati, you can pass EDSA. It'll take you about 55 minutes, but there are 3 policemen along the way. If you're willing to take a little longer, pass through the side streets, there's only 1 policeman, but there are 3 accidents. So prescriptive analytics is a way of providing recommendations and providing the decision maker what are the costs and what are the benefits of a decision. So if you're going to implement analytics, always think of Waze, 3 types of analytics. So just to recap, in this lesson, we understood how data becomes business value. First, it has to be extracted from sources, curated and cleansed, and joined in a data warehouse, and at which point it's now prepared for analytics. And then there are 3 types of analytics: descriptive analysis, predictive analysis, and prescriptive analysis. And that, in a nutshell, is how data becomes business value. Thank you.